Hi everyone, welcome in. We're going to give everyone a couple of minutes to filter in. So while you're popping in, why don't you let us know where you're tuning in from in the chat? Last time, I think we had a competition to see who was the furthest reaching. Boston, Charleston, Sacramento. All right, we're already coast to coast. Excellent. Love it. These are flying too fast for me all, but amazing. Woo. Texas, Seattle, North Dakota, Canada. Excellent. We've gone international. Fantastic. UK. Yay, this and now we've started a barbecue competition. This or South Carolina, I think Texas might want to have words.
Charleston does have really great barbecue for what it's worth.
I haven't gotten to try it, but I've heard this. One day I'll make it out there. Maine, excellent. Oklahoma City, Kansas City. I was just in Kansas City.
Also has great barbecue too.
That's what I heard. Oh, we started a barbecue beef. I started a barbecue beef in the chat. Best wings from Buffalo. Ooh, all right. Excellent. Excellent. We'll give it just one more minute. Love this. Next time, I think I'm going to say, instead of where are you coming from, where are you coming from and what is it famous for food-wise? Because this is fantastic. All right, we're 2 minutes past. Ah, hey Danielle. Green chili. Excellent. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today's webinar is Beyond Automation, Rethinking AEC Marketing Workflows in the Age of AI. So we're obviously talking about AI, and we're going to talk about how it's affecting us in the AEC world. Maybe a little bit further, hopefully, than the way you've been thinking about it. The goal for today is to really get you to think outside of the box that we've been thinking in. So today's agenda, obviously, we're going to do some introductions. We're going to set the stage. What's going on with AI and AEC? What does the current landscape look like? What should we be thinking about? What should we be looking at? And then we're going to take that and we're going to flip it on its head. And we're going to rethink what collaboration and marketing and technology all look like in the age of AI. Then once we've done that, we're going to build on it and we're going to talk about how we truly create change in our workflows using this new technology. And finally, we're going to really think way, way, way far in the future with visioning out what the new AEC marketing team looks like now that we have this amazing technology that really functions as an assistant and not just a tool, right? So a few housekeeping items. Chat is for chat. And Q&A is where you're going to put your questions for us. Eric and I will save about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the webinar to answer as many questions as we can. Very excited for those. Pop them in throughout. Yeah, I think that's good. Hello, my name is Rochelle Ray. I'm the head of AEC marketing here at Open Asset. I have been in the AEC industry for 16-ish years. I have worked in small firms and large firms and everything in between. I started my AI journey a couple years ago with PI, Proposal Industry Experts, creating the first AI certification specifically for proposal writing. That's our API. And watching AI kind of transform the proposal landscape became a really big advocate for the thoughtful implementation of AI. So that's going to be a theme throughout this presentation. And obviously, I'm here at Open Asset now, and I did that, joined the team to really continue championing the AEC marketer and really help us with industry change and that thoughtful integration of AI piece.
Thanks, Rochelle. Hey, everyone. My name is Eric Liu. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Open Asset. Pretty much spent my entire 20 plus year career in product. So a lot of that experience has been working at companies, helping them define their product vision and strategy, and then of course executing that strategy through really great design and development. I would definitely categorize myself as an AI-focused product leader, having worked with a lot of AI and ML teams, and also having owned and launched over 7 0 to 1 AI products, both on the traditional ML side as well as the generative AI side. 0 to 1 product expertise is definitely also part of my career, resume, I would say, having just launched a ton of 0 to 1 products before in my past. And like Rochelle, also really happy to have joined Open Asset and really helping to lead the AEC industry and continue to evolve our product offerings to always bring value to the AEC industry and helping our marketing teams be more successful.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks for joining this webinar. So we've got the AI brilliance and the AEC experience. So hopefully we're going to pack this full of amazing insights. But today there's a big question that I want you to think about now and for the next hour. And I want you to ask, are we using AI to accelerate outdated processes? Are we trying to shove something that already doesn't work into the magic tool and hope that it fixes it, right? And my best example of this is our technical staff won't even open the shared Google Doc or the shared Adobe link to provide their comments on our proposals. What makes us think that they are magically going to start using the new AI tool instead, right? So I want us to not think of AI as this silver bullet, as Eric likes to say, but think of it in a practical way. Like, what can it actually do, and what do we need to change to make sure that it works? So we're going to think about harnessing the power of AI to improve our processes, not to try and ham fist them into some sort of magic solution. So before we get there, my bad, we're going to talk about what's going on in the AEC industry. AI obviously is impacting almost every corner of it. We're just going to kind of talk about what's on the marketing side. There are really cool things happening on the design and construction side as well, though. So if you can stay on top of those, highly recommend it. They're just fun. But for us, there are a ton of places that we can adopt AI, right? Go, no go is a really important one. AI is really good at understanding data and providing recommendations. It can help us with coordination and workflow improvement, obviously content generation, personalization, tailoring, right? Response automation, content optimization. It's also good at risk identification and verifying compliance with requirements. Eventually, I'll get to a point where it's good at analytics as well, right? Depending on how much we use it and how we use it. So these are just a couple of top of mind areas, but eventually AI will spread to pretty much everything we do in some way. I wanted to do just a very quick overview of a couple of key tools and softwares that we are probably either already implementing or should be thinking about, right, when we're talking about AI or our tech stack in general. Number one, obviously, is our proposal management software. These are dedicated tools specifically for proposals. They help us with managing the content that goes into our proposals, version control, drafting, collaboration, things like that. These are purpose-built specifically for proposals. They understand the nuances of what proposals are and how they come together, which makes them a little bit easier to work with or better to work with than, out of the box or off the shelf type stuff. We have digital asset managers like Open Asset, right? These store all of the wonderful imagery and files and such that are integral to everything we do as marketers, right? It helps us categorize them. It helps us easily search and find them. It helps us stay linked in our InDesign documents, which is really amazing. And it just makes accessing the things that we need much, much easier than like hunting through your server to find that thing that's probably stored on someone's desktop, right? We have document automation. These have been around for quite a while, right? They're good for things like contracts or repeating documents that are standardized that you use often. kind of spits them out really quickly, reduces errors, minimizes risk. They're great. We have project management tools, also have been around for a while. These help us coordinate and track timelines and stay on schedule, make sure everything is assigned properly and resourced appropriately. And of course, we have writing and editing tools, right? These make sure that we are using proper grammar and the content is of a good quality or consistent, right? Can suggest improvements. These can be a lot of different types of things, right? So we have a lot to work with technology-wise, and all of these tools have their purpose, and we're starting to see AI layered on top of them, which is often improving their purpose as well. So just things to think about. But the big thing I want to come back to, we have all of these amazing tools, but proposal professionals are doing more work than ever. I don't know if it's actually changing anything. According to the 2025 Lupio Trends report, 53% of teams say that they've actually responded to more RFPs in the last year. Over 64% of those said they did that in 10 days or fewer. It's a crazy turnaround time. And yet, our win rates have only increased 2% in the last year. So we're doing more than ever, but we're only seeing an incremental gain in our win rate. So is this technology actually helping us? I don't know, especially because 25% of people still cite stress as the number one reason for leaving proposal roles. So I would argue that we are not using this technology appropriately or any technology appropriately. If it's supposed to make our lives easier and we're still bailing at this alarming rate, then maybe we aren't using it right. Maybe we are trying to use AI or any technology to work on an outdated workflow. We have the same challenges that we have had for the last 5 years. Those pesky technical staff will not collaborate with us. We have data bottlenecks. We're still struggling to find the content that we need or to obtain new content as quickly as we can. And we have workload and resourcing issues. Those haven't changed. There are still persistent issues. So something is broken here. And we're going to try and figure out what that is in the next 45 minutes. So I think that we need to start rethinking what we do, and we have to get rid of the this is how we've always done it mentality, right? And we need to figure out what collaboration looks like in the age of AI, the age of technology. What does marketing look like? Because our outdated processes just aren't working. And obviously, from the stats that we just showed, aren't really getting better with new technology. Competition is increasing. It is becoming more and more intense. We are seeing shrinking opportunities and more firms chasing fewer projects. It's becoming even more difficult to find your differentiators and stand out when there's such high competition. And the Open Asset State of AEC marketing reports showed that a little over 40% of AEC professionals say that they're coping with a saturated market, really, really fierce competition, and constant changes, which is making it very difficult to do their jobs. It's very volatile right now. And a little over 45% of us say that we are balancing the need for speed with maintaining high quality standards and improving team coordination. I think that's a little low. I think that should be 100% because it's really all we do with proposals is how quickly can we get this out the door, but write something really, really good. So same issues, pervasive in our entire role. How do we deal with that? Let me introduce you to the Snoopy curve. If you've never seen it before, this is Snoopy. You can see his little nose at the top, his little feet at the far right. Just underneath Snoopy is a kind of flat line that spikes at the end. So what these two curves represent are our workloads, our processes as proposal professionals, AEC marketing coordinators. That bottom line is what we're doing right now. Typically, what I see is that an RFP is released. There is It gets stuck in someone's inbox or on someone's desk, or we kind of chat about it, but put it off, don't make a decision. It sits, it sits, it sits. And like a week or two later, or way too far later, we do finally make a decision to go after it. And then we are frantically trying to throw content together and review and edit and finalize and upload into the portal like 30 seconds before it's about to close. It's very stressful. It's a very backloaded process. And it's not really effective, but it is extremely common. What we want to aspire to is the Snoopy curve, right? In the Snoopy curve, ideally the client sends us the RFP. Hopefully we saw it coming in advance, but we receive the RFP. Within 24 hours, we have done a go, no-go decision, hopefully based on like actual data and not just someone's gut. We have within 48 hours then had our kickoff meeting, decided who is handling which sections, which projects we are putting into the proposal, which people we're showing. We've started reaching out to any consultants or any team members. Coordination has begun. And then we have this nice big chunk of time where we can finalize our win strategy. We can start developing the technical sections, pulling our draft together. It's starting to look really nice. We have some time to send it off to the team to review, give them a nice, comfortable few days to make their comments. We take it back, we do those edits. There's another little bump at his tummy where we do a little bit more refinement. We do a final review. If we need to, we are finalizing pricing, and then we submit it. Maybe the morning of. Maybe it's done the day before. We just wait just in case, someone releases an addendum at the 11th hour. But it's much less stressful because it's a front-loaded process. We are doing so much work up front that is setting us up for success down the way. So this is what I mean when I say we are maybe using technology to accelerate an outdated process. This backloaded doesn't really work, and technology is not going to fix that. If we can work towards Snoopy, we can implement technology to make that even more efficient. But there's a reason that we don't have the Snoopy curve in a lot of our firms, and that's because the marketer and technical staff relationship is really designed to fail. Marketing has a PR problem. We are often seen as like information miners, where we kind of go off and fetch things and bring them back and deposit them into the proposal. We're not always seen as strategic partners who understand what it takes to craft a really compelling message that's going to speak to the review committee. Our incentives are misaligned. Seller doers have to be doing, right? So they're on billable projects and those take precedence over marketing. So when those priorities start competing with each other, we see friction. There are communication gaps, right? Technical staff sometimes speak in technical jargon and they don't always understand the fluffy, soft marketing stuff. And so we kind of speak across each other. And all of this creates even more friction, right? That's what leads to these last minute requests and rushed reviews and deadline disruptions and causes that kind of backloaded process. So another big question for you is to think about, what if AI weren't just a tool? What if it was a relationship mediator? Like, what if we thought about it as something that could translate that technical think into marketing, or marketing into technical speak, and create a bridge between technical or leadership and marketing or BD or whatever it is, right? Can it bridge the gap between us and like show importance of the ask? Is there an opportunity for us to use this tool to switch from kind of this periodic collaboration where it's a little bit transactional, like, hey, project manager, engineer, architect, whoever you are, I need this thing from you for this proposal, and then you won't see me again until the next one, to a method of continuous knowledge sharing where we are more aware of what the other party is doing and we interact with each other in a more normal, natural, collaborative way. So it's not quite so chaotic. And a few examples of this are ambient capture, which would be like an AI integrating into an existing workflow to capture knowledge, right? So maybe an AI tool attends a design meeting and then flags relevant insights for marketing content, or micro contributions, where we lighten the lift of SME contributions from, hey, can you write this for me, to, hey, I've used the knowledge I already have to write something for you. Is this accurate? Right? So those are two I thought of. Eric, I think you thought of one as well.
Yeah, the multi-agent AI systems, very much a buzzword these days. So multi-agent AI systems really is that next stage and evolution of AI. So typically right now, when we think about AI, we think about ChatGPT. Using ChatGPT is very much still a one-to-one type of interaction, right? You ask ChatGPT a question or tell it to do something, ChatGPT responds back with whatever it is that you had asked it to do. A multi-agent system is taking that one-to-one interaction and actually expanding it into a complete end-to-end workflow. So this slide right here just represents a very much a painful type of experience that I'm sure a lot of you AEC marketers oftentimes have to deal with. Rochelle earlier just now spoke about the dynamic between the SMEs and the technical folks, between the AEC marketers. This kind of represents how we solve that through a multi-agent system. So in this particular example, there's 5 agents that represent the entire workflow. The first agent is really to analyze the RFP. So say you receive an RFP, you decide whether or not you want to go or no go and pursue it or not. The first agent will do all the heavy lifting of analyzing all of the RFP information to make sure that they extract all the compliance requirements and the evaluation criteria and some of the strategic win themes, and present that information to the next AI agent, which is primarily just trained and focused on how do I find the best subject matter expert within my firm that aligns very closely with this RFP. So that constant networking and knowing who to reach out to involve in this pursuit, this agent would handle all of that. And then, of course, the actual heavy lifting of reaching out and contacting the SME, giving them all the information about what to respond to and the information that needs to be created to respond to the RFP, all of that would be handled by another AI agent that's completely designed to help with SME and marketer coordination. And of course, inevitably, there's the deadline manager of making sure that the SME is aware of the deadline and constantly reminding them that, like, hey, this is due in 5 days, make sure you get this information correct. That is oftentimes we as AEC marketers always have to feel like we constantly have to be a alarm clock or a deadline manager or some type of almost like a motherly or fatherly figure to make sure that we're just getting everyone to make sure that they're providing the information in a timely manner. And then, of course, the SME does their job, fills out the proper information, passes it back to another agent, which will then compile all of that information into an initial draft proposal. And of course, export that draft proposal back to you as an AEC marketer. And then you can then leverage that information and build upon it and continue to strategically revise it based on the knowledge that you have. So this kind of slide represents a potential not so distant future world where rather than just engaging with AI on a one-to-one basis, you could actually create an entire multi-agent system that will execute a somewhat tedious task flow from end to end in a very automated fashion.
I can't wait for the day when I have an ankle biting agent and no one has to call me the ankle biter anymore. But I did like Deadline Manager. That was very nice.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. I want to take it back a few steps though, and talk about what to consider in AI. Like even before we get to this multi-agent step, I think a lot of marketers ask like, how do I talk to IT or leadership about this? Like then multi-agent maybe might go over their heads a little bit. So I'm gonna take it back. But my first question for you is, how do I know what LLM to use? Like there are so many options out there before I even get to like what system is like what am I going to build on? Like what do I do? Where do I go? How do I make
Yeah.
this decision?
It's such a hard decision these days, and it's also getting increasingly harder with new entrants into the space, as well as constant updates to an LLM. So one of the questions that Wendy had asked is, what is an LLM? Yes, Rochelle, thank you so much. It represents a large language model. So it's the basis for all generative AI. So anytime that you use ChatGPT or Cohere, for example, or Anthropic's Claude, it's the foundational technology behind that is all based on large language models. Sometimes that can also be multimodal models, which is when you're asking a question or telling the LLM to do something via text, and it creates a beautiful image, for example. That would be an example of a multimodal model, which is beyond just languages. But to answer your question, Rochelle, very good question. It's a question I get asked all the time. I think it really stems from the task that you're trying to accomplish and the use case that you're trying to solve for. So as a general purpose, good all-arounder LLM, I think OpenAI's GPT 4.5 is probably your best go-to in terms of general tasks, right? So things like how do you summarize an email or summarize a huge document? Things like generating generic content like papers or agenda, or maybe an itinerary on a vacation that you're planning. OpenAI's model is pretty good, well-rounded all-arounder for things like that. If some of you are coders in your spare time, for complex coding problems or from an engineering software development standpoint, Anthropic's Claude Sonnet model has typically been performing the best for those types of use case and tasks. So as some of you might know, Anthropic released a new version of their model just last week, Claude Sonnet 4.0. That actually increases and evolves the industry-leading kind of 3.7 version model that they previously had. So that model is just getting better and better and better when it comes to coding tasks. And then I think for like complex reasoning or complex problem solving, we're talking scientific calculations or really complex puzzles or really intricate solves that require this multi-step reasoning. Google's Gemini 2.5 is probably the best at those from a reasoning standpoint. So you'll oftentimes see these AI companies offer the more expensive reasoning models. What they do is that they actually break down the problem step by step and then offers to you as a user. It explains the logic behind each one of the steps that they do and the reason and the decision tree as to how they got to that result, so that you can really go back and dissect, like, how did they break down this problem? How did they think about solving it step by step? And oftentimes they can even go back and recheck the work and have it correct itself. So these models are oftentimes the most expensive and they are the most time consuming when it comes to getting a response back, but they're the most accurate and they're the best at solving these like really complex problems. So I would say, just to summarize, OpenAI's model, best for just all around general questions and tasks and document generation, for coding software and engineering development stuff. Anthropic's Claude Sonnet model is probably the best for those. And then for complex reasoning type of issues and problems, Google's Gemini 2.5 is currently the best of those.
Awesome. So we have a lot of options. Similar question for you. So those all seem like out of the box options, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google. Do I need something else, like a purpose-built AI, or can I build my own? Like when would I use each of these?
Yeah, also a really great question. So out of the box, these models perform really well for kind of general situations, things that, can be found anywhere on the internet, right? So the problem with that approach is that in our industry, the AEC industry, it's so nuanced and there's so many like little things about our workflows, the RFP process, the things that we work on from a subject matter experts, prime and sub-consultants. There's just so many nuances to our industry that using anything out of the box is probably not going to yield the results that you actually like really want, right? So that's the big in that regard. You could also build your own, which is probably maybe the best approach, but at the same time, it's also really time consuming and extremely expensive. And you also have to kind of build and hire or kind of contract out a whole machine learning engineering team at your disposal in order to do that, which also is really expensive. Hiring this talent is not only very difficult to find, but also really expensive. It's probably one of the hottest, roles that you could probably hire for. We painfully know that pain these days as we continue to build out our AI team in-house. So I would say the best approach really is to find something and partner with a company that has a purpose-built product, right? So this new AI-powered proposal automation solution that we at Open Asset are building, we are actually fine-tuning and training our AI to be very purpose-built for the AEC industry. It's something that's always been core to our DNA for the 20 plus years of our existence. And that's never been more true when it comes to this world of AI, just making sure that our AI is understanding the nuances of the AEC industry and being able to perform in a way that our industry and you as AEC marketers expect. So I think out of the three options, unless you guys plan on kind of hiring and building out your own in-house AI team, probably partnering with a AEC product company that specializes in building really great software and has really great understanding of the industry is probably the best bet.
Okay. Okay. So again, just depends on your use case and what you really need, but purpose built for the complex stuff is probably the way to go. Awesome. Final question for you for now. This is one we get all the time. What security concerns should I be aware of or asking about?
Yeah, I think in this day and age, LLMs and generative AI is really amazing, but it still at times can be flawed when it comes to just negative outcomes, right? You still see a lot of PR and headlines these days about an LLM like hallucinated and gave false information to a customer, for example, or maybe it leaked sensitive data out to the general public, which it wasn't supposed to do, right? So I think the security concerns really revolves around the due diligence that your IT team should have in place to make sure, again, that you're partnering and selecting vendors that have a really great security practice in place. So specific to AI, they should always have guardrails in place. So a guardrailing software basically puts guardrails, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, around their LLM and their AI product to make sure that it's never giving false information. Because again, LLMs tend to still hallucinate and tend to still somewhat go off the rails. So aligning yourselves with a company that has a really great guardrailing security measure in place for their product suite is obviously very, very important. I think real-time observability too, which is all about how are we monitoring the behaviors of AI? Is it being responsible? Is it introducing any bias into its data set? Those are all kind of examples of making sure that you as a company are doing the due diligence to vet all of these vendors and making sure that these vendors have all the security in place to provide a really great product and a really great service that doesn't provide any negative outcomes or false information.
It seems kind of a common sense. Like just ask basic questions about security. Are
Yeah.
we overthinking it? I think is my follow-up question on that one.
Yeah, 100%. No overthinking about it. Your IT team should probably be very involved in this process, which I'm sure they all are already. So I think that's just probably things that they're already asking about and checking for.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric.
Of course.
Moving on, since we're about halfway through. So now we know what the landscape looks like. We have started thinking about rethinking. I realize how that sounds. And now we're going to talk about how we actually create a transformative workflow. How do we get from that backloaded swoop curve to the Snoopy curve? And I think what's going to happen is that we're going to have new approaches to institutional knowledge, right? AI is starting to create what are called knowledge graphs, right? These are structured representations of entities like people and places and concepts and their relationships. And it visualizes that for us and creates this database of complex connections that right now we as marketers keep track of in our minds. That is institutional knowledge. Another way to explain institutional knowledge is your project manager, Jerry, understands that you have to send this form in duplicate to the city at the end of every project. Nobody knows why except Jerry, because he's been working on city projects for 45 years. Jerry retires, new PM steps in, doesn't understand why we're sending this in duplicate, seems like it's unnecessary, only submits the form once, city gets upset. That is institutional knowledge that walked out the door with Jerry. These things that live in our heads are now going to live in our AI, right? It's going to know why we did that. It's going to be able to see the connection from its past experience and tell you why we need to do this, right? For us as marketers, that means the AI is now learning from our past proposals. They're not these static documents that just start gathering pixel dust on our servers or waiting for us to open them up and copy and paste as a base, right? Like this is our go by. It's going to help us with expertise mapping. Who knows what across the company? Who is the best fit? Who is the best SME in Eric's example of that multi-agent system, that SME coordinator? Who needs to be involved in this, right? And we're going to redefine our roles so that destined to fail marketer technical staff relationship is going to improve. It's going to change because marketers are no longer going to be content miners. We are going to be strategic guides and quality controllers. So the AI will be going out and fetching and retrieving and returning based on the connections that it's making. And we are going to be reviewing that, right? Our technical staff are going to transform from these kind of reluctant knowledge sources to collaborative storytellers because their AIs are going to be following them around, right? Sitting in those design meetings, pulling out the information that is most relevant and helping them connect to us, right? Our business developers, they're relationship managers, but they're going to become insight connectors at a whole new level because they already kind of do this. And we're going to see new roles evolve and emerge, right? We're going to have knowledge curators, maybe workflow designers, and things that maybe we can't even conceptualize right now because we are still kind of looking at our old workflows and how to optimize them instead of blowing them up and creating new workflows. And so once we get to that step, we will need to like revision that out because those workflows are about to get a whole lot smarter, right? Those AI systems are going to be looking at the process, not just the output of the proposal, but how it's put together. And it's going to say, hey, like which of our technical staff are going to respond to which requests, how fast, in what way, when are they most responsive, who is most responsive, which communication channels work best for them. That little agent that, again, Eric was talking about earlier is going to be like super specialized in this and be able to facilitate that. And other agents are going to look at what we're doing and facilitate the process. Right, we're going to have predictive assistance as well. So we were talking about that proposal automation, all of those things that come to result in that draft proposal is a lot of stuff happening in the back, a lot of those little agents running off and looking at the proposal outline and the RFP, what's being requested, going to look at the content we already have available, what needs to be drafted, who is the best person to draft it, identifying potential bottlenecks like, hey, based on your past proposals, it's going to take the team about 4 days to review this. We don't have that kind of time. Can we revise the schedule? So they're going to be like shepherding this process as well while we're kind of watching over them. Which means our proposals are also going to evolve, right? They're not static documents anymore. They're going to be living documents, right? So we're going to have this like improved and iterative development. There's not going to be this, hopefully, mad scramble to assemble at the end because our little assistants will be out there looking across our body of work and pulling the pieces that are most relevant, the pieces that were in our winning proposals, the pieces that were in our shortlisted proposals. This is our best content, pulling it together, mixing it into really wonderful thought leadership that is responsive to the proposal. It's going to be smarter, it's going to be tailored, and then we're going to be in this new position of reviewing or interjecting with insights that only humans have, right? So everything's going to change a little bit. Question for all of you. We're going to launch a poll here in a second. If you could pick one part of the proposal process to optimize, thinking about all of your little AI assistants that can go off and do things for you, which part would it be? It could be the RFP review, that kind of ingesting it, figuring out what's going on, what do we have to respond to. It can be the strategy development, like what are our win themes, what is our key messaging, be go, no go. Should we even go after this thing? Right? Maybe it's drafting. Like give me the first draft faster. Or maybe it's reviewing and editing, right? Like I've got everything in place, but I need help with that content optimization or making sure it's compliant or making sure it's clean and edited. So we'll give you just a couple of minutes, couple seconds there. I have guesses. I imagine everyone, if we could pick all five of these, I would pick all five of these, but let's see. I'm going to bring up Snoopy, give you just another second. And then when we get the results up, we'll talk through it in terms of the Snoopy curve. Actually, Kushal, could we get the results? Excellent. Ooh, I would have guessed wrong. Wow, Eric, I did not guess drafting. I would have guessed go, no go for sure.
I thought drafting would be high, but this is it's an overwhelming majority vote here with the drafting.
Yeah, almost 50%.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
And then there's almost a three-way tie for RFP review, strategy, and review and edit.
very
Which,
interesting. It makes sense because, me and you, Rochelle, we've talked about the amount of time it takes to get to that first draft and how much coordination there is, sifting through past content, the project management aspect of it, reaching out to SMEs and sub-consultants. It's time consuming. It takes a lot of work to get to that process. So yeah, I guess I'm not too surprised by this outcome.
I mean, I'm not surprised, but I really did think there were a couple others that would be up ahead. So in that case, my question to you is, how do we how do we address this? Like, what can we do right now with like an off-the-shelf option, or what should we be thinking about with something like purpose-built to address the issue of drafting?
Yeah, and this kind I think goes back to one of your earlier questions around the effectiveness of something off the shelf or going with something purpose built. Honestly, when it comes to drafting, because it's so specific to the actual RFP itself, and it's also so specific to your firm's expertise, leveraging something off the shelf is probably not going to yield you the best results. It might give you kind of that first initial summarization aspect of it, but I think when it comes to drafting, getting something more purpose built is probably going to be your best bet. So like obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we are working on an AI proposal automation product that really helps solve this a lot, that it is very much purpose built for the AEC industry and also helps us pretty much tackle all of these five things that are on the poll. But I think the drafting thing in particular is very hard for any product company to really solve for because just involves so much analysis of the RFP and then so much analysis of like your firm's information and leveraging content from your past proposals and making sure that we leverage the assets that you might have, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's definitely a tough problem to solve for, but yeah, hopefully we can solve it in a very elegant way and deliver that value from a product perspective.
I think we can. There's just so much institutional knowledge that goes into drafting. And I think that's one, why it's so difficult, but also why it's so sticky and frustrating for us as marketers, right?
For
It'd be
sure.
easier if we were just like dragging and dropping the same stuff over and over again. But when you're like constantly sourcing for the best stuff, you're looking in so many different places and it drives us crazy. So, what do we do with that? We think about the new AEC marketing team. And for this, I want to go back to that big question. Are we using AI to accelerate something outdated? And I want us to throw everything we know out the window for the next like 3 slides. And I want us to think about if you could completely take down the system and rebuild it with this new technology, what is it going to look like? Right. I think that we are going to be adopting and refining new skills and competencies. Instead of being those information miners and the fetchers, we are going to be evaluators. We are going to be looking at what our AI assistants are going to get and putting together for us. And we're going to be looking at, is this accurate? Is this of good quality? We are going to become more data literate, right? We're going to have a better understanding of what data actually matters and how do we use it, right? We don't want to like dump everything in here and say, assistant, go get it. Like that'd be like dumping your entire proposal archive on an intern and being like, go find the best stuff. They're not gonna be able to do it, right? Or they're gonna go find something that they think is good, but you know it's not because it's institutional knowledge, right? We're going to be thinking about systems and workflows instead of just the steps in the process that we've done every day, right? We're going to be looking for new connections between people and processes and technologies in ways that we haven't before, right? We're going to be creating completely new organizational structures. Like, what if marketing embedded with the technical team instead of marketing being over here in the corner and technical being over there in the corner? We exist together. Like, you have a marketer who is within that project team, follows the project from RFP all the way through construction and knows everything about this client, everything about this project, everything about this team. That's a new type of really powerful knowledge. What if we have a centralized knowledge team that is specifically tasked with just capturing and disseminating firm expertise across all of the departments and verticals and sectors and geographies? I'm starting to see this actually with larger firms where they noticed that there's kind of this siloing of information. And so they created knowledge managers who kind of sit on top of everything and just look for those connections. But now they'll be able to look for those with AI in their back pocket. Or maybe we'll have super hyper specialized teams that are organized specifically around the client journey, right? Or market intelligence or specific content development. And I'll use those AI insights to really improve that relationship and the communications. There was a comment in here about your BD team positioning for a project in advance and how far you can push that and then take that information to start developing your win strategy before the RFP even drops. That would be a hyper specialized type of structure. And of course, we'll continue integrating technology into our teams and processes. We are going to be completely different in the next 5, 10 years than we are today. So maybe we're shifting from fragmented tools to integrated platforms. Maybe our tech stack starts to condense instead of, expanding. And I really think that knowledge management is no longer going to be this like nice to have thing. It is a core central piece of your infrastructure. So I want to end by picking Eric's brain because it's brilliant. And I want to know if you have any like final thoughts on how we think about AI as this kind of integral part of the team, almost as if it's like a team member for us. Like, how should we be thinking about the implementation and access to and integration of this new team member?
Yeah, really great question. I'll tackle each of them separately. So as far as implementation goes, you as AEC marketing teams, you're already so busy, right? So aligning yourself with a tool that organically and naturally fits into your existing workflow, I think is going to be really important, right? Because I think anytime you introduce something new and it might, be very different than the way that you're used to working, that overhead, that change management, that training and learning, oftentimes it isn't even worth it, right? Because you'd rather just kind of stick with your existing workflow. So always just make sure that from an implementation standpoint, you really assess how is this product designed, what workflows, and where does it naturally or not naturally fit into my existing workflow, and how you can leverage it that way. So I think that would be my first recommendation from an implementation standpoint is find a product or a tool that fits seamlessly already in your existing workflow. Regarding access, I kind of see it in two ways. It's almost who within the company you give access to this product to or this AI agent to. And then on the flip side is what data do you give AI access to? And I think there was a question there earlier around the confidentiality and whether or not you give that data to a vendor or a product's AI and how that information gets leveraged, right? So I think access-wise internally, just make sure that you're giving access to the right people. So whether you want tight control on who gets access to this new product or not, you can either have that control or provide it to more people within your organization. As far as information from your firm that may or may not get leveraged to train a company's AI model, I think we need to be very thoughtful around kind of like the language from a contracts perspective. I think the beauty of AI is that it's constantly learning and constantly evolving and constantly building its knowledge base based on your firm's information. I think specifically at OpenAI, at Open Asset, for example, we have disclosures around how that information gets used. So for example, if you do choose to opt in, the AI will only be trained on for the benefit of your firm's information. So in that scenario, none of that information that you provide to our products is ever going to enter the normal model that we have and never for the benefit of any of our other customers. So it's solely for the benefit of you and your firm only. Now, there's other examples where you could opt into offering some of that information for the broader benefit of all of a company's customers, in which case just make sure that they have clauses in the contract around anonymizing that data. That's very important. If you do decide to opt in and provide that information, make sure that information is always anonymized so it never gets tied back to you as a firm. So I think that's just, again, due diligence, asking the right questions. Your IT team will probably handle that, but I think good AI companies that are responsible will always give you that option to opt in and opt out based on different levels and varying degrees of access to that information. And then last but not least, from an integration standpoint, many of you AEC companies out there oftentimes have a ton of different products, whether you use a CRM or whether you have a single source of truth that handles some of your assets, like Open Asset, for example. I think consolidating your tech stack so that you're not having information scattered across a bunch of different products from a bunch of different companies, that I think allows you just greater control and also allows you to integrate AI into your workflow a lot more organically, to my earlier point, and not having just data fragmented across all these different disparate systems that may or may not integrate with each other. So to summarize, just make sure you're finding products that have either existing integrations or plan to integrate with some of your existing platforms and products that you already use.
That was fantastic, Eric. Thank you for breaking that down into all three of those. There are so many questions rolling in, probably based on that. So uh, we're going to hop into Q&A for the last 5 or 6 minutes. Please remember to put them in the actual Q&A bar, not in the chat. So did you You already kind of answered the confidentiality one. Did you have anything to add with how are we supposed to deal with confidentiality, knowing that if we are using these tools, our information and strategies and everything is going into the tool to be reused by anyone else?
Yeah, it's again, if it's a really good AI company, none of that information would ever be used for the benefit of any of our other customers, as an example. So here at Open Asset, we provide those two options. One, that the AI is only going to benefit you and your firm only. So it wouldn't have a confidentiality situation where any of that information can benefit any other customer, for example, right? But I think it's just due diligence to make sure that that clause exists and that you either opt in or opt out based on your comfortability and your preference. But really great AI companies never force any of their customers to leverage their data and train their AI for the benefit of their own product or the benefit of any of their other customers. So that would be just kind of a watch out to make sure that you look out for those types of things.
For sure. For sure. I'm gonna wrap a bunch of different questions that are flying into one question. Um, what is Open Asset doing? What do we have planned? Can we talk a little bit more about it?
Sure. I think for those of you that participated in the poll around those 5 things that you'd wish AI to automated, we're basically working on a brand new product that will be out in just a few short months that will pretty much solve or automate all 5 of those things in a seamless and well-designed product that will also integrate directly with Open Asset. So if you are existing Open Asset customers that have all of your wonderful assets in Open Asset, all of your files, your project information, your employee information, all of those wonderful assets can be seamlessly integrated into this new product and then allow you to create your draft proposal or your proposal management plan all within this new product. So it should save a ton of your resource and time constrained marketing teams just a ton of time. So you guys can focus more on fun, strategic, and creative initiatives and not have to kind of worry about all those tedious things. So yeah, that's a little bit of a sneak verbal preview of what we've been working on for the past months. I know somebody felt that what we were talking about was more like years away, but again, it's actually closer than many of you guys realize, and this product will be out in just a couple of few short months.
That was literally the next question I was going to throw out there was it seems like a lot of the things we're talking about are several years out. How do you suggest we navigate implementing changes in process and quality right now?
Yeah, I think right now your best bet will be leveraging things that are off the shelf because those are just readily available already. So whether you currently already have Copilot or whether you have access to ChatGPT, leverage those tools as best as you can. Again, they can only take you so far because they're not purpose built for the AEC industry, and there's obviously some drawbacks and potential pitfalls about using those that you just have to watch out for. But just make sure that you proofread everything and you double check every response back. Never just blindly trust the AI and copy and paste anything into anything that you're working on. But I would say those are probably the best things that you can do today that will hopefully kind of save you some time and a couple of hours worth of work. But yeah, I think aligning yourselves with a really great product partner that understands the industry and builds their software purpose built for the AEC industry is obviously a good next step to that.
I just also want to add that now is a really good time to do like an audit of your workflows and your processes. And if you're not already doing that, looking at what is working well, what is not working. And as you identify like the what is not working, then start looking for a solution to fix whatever that challenge is and work backwards. What is the problem? How do I find the solution instead of like picking that solution and then trying to make that process work with it. I think we have time for one more question. And this also kind of captures a lot of thing that is other questions that are popping up are similar. How will these systems work with us to improve the tedious tasks that take time away from doing the real brain-powered work that is part of our essential skill as marketers? I am very wary and frustrated that writing and editing is being lost as a skill for so many people and will become worthless as a human skill when AI can be so good at it, when in reality, the human skill is far superior and needed for this job.
Yeah, I actually give a huge talk about this topic. Our value from an open asset standpoint is that we never want AI to replace the AEC marketer. That's core to our core values. That's core to our product vision as well. So for us, we're not necessarily leveraging AI to generate net new content that would in any way kind of remove the heart and soul and the human creativity aspect of creating content and writing really great messaging and working on proposals. Our goal is to leverage the AI technology to just alleviate some of the more manual and tedious tasks, or the whole you have to know someone who knows someone who might have the information that you're looking for. All of that hunting and pecking and tedious manual tasks is what we're trying to leverage the technology for. So again, part of our core to our vision and kind of our goal is to never replace actual humans with AI. So that's also obviously something that's very top of mind for lots of people in our industry as well as outside of our industry. But that's something that I personally strongly believe in, as well as you, Rochelle, and also something that's just core to open assets kind of DNA.
The writing is near and dear to me. I'm a compulsive, like creative writer, so I would not want to automate that, but it can take away the coordination of like sub-consultants and stuff. We are at time, so that is all the time we have for questions now. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Be on the lookout for more information on what's coming up with Open Asset. We dropped a link in the comments. Go sign up for that so you are the first to know what's coming. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.